Are our bodies simply machines? Are the brain and behavior related? Are our personal experiences really that important? Is there a distinction between the brain and the mind? These are questions that René Descartes sought to answer. René Descartes, now on The Philosophical Roots of Psychology. About 50 years before the birth of René Descartes, Copernicus demonstrated that the Earth revolved around the Sun. Also, Galileo uses his newly invented telescope and observes mountains on the Moon. During this period of tremendous scientific advance, the Age of Enlightenment, or reason, begins. Descartes is a key figure who helps to usher in this new intellectual period. A number of themes characterize the Enlightenment. First, many Enlightenment thinkers questioned or rejected the authority of the Church. Knowledge to these thinkers involved understanding the principles of how the universe works. Power involved the ability to improve social conditions. Third, rational thought was viewed as the means of improving human lives. Finally, the irrational aspects of human thought and behavior were devalued. René Descartes was born in France at the beginning of this very heady period. Descartes' father was a wealthy lawyer, but he was raised by his grandmother. He studied Plato and Aristotle as a teenager. After completing school, he traveled freely and finally settled down near Paris. Upon his death, it was found that his casket was too small for his body, so his head was cut off. His head was eventually stolen and never united with the rest of his body. Descartes is important to psychology for 4 reasons. First, in his mechanistic view of the body. Second, is the role that the brain plays in behavior. Third is the importance of subjective experience. Finally, Descartes' dualism of brain and mind has had lasting effects on psychology and Western society. Descartes believed that human and animal bodies operated somewhat like a machine. Central to this view was his idea of behavioral reflex. The reflex involves the interaction of the brain with muscles, tendons, and the environment. Descartes believed that the brain was filled with a subtle wind or flame that flowed from the brain down the nerves. The nerves were viewed as hollow tubes. These gentle winds or flames caused the body to move. In turn, sensory activation pulls threads connected to the brain. These threads then activate the subtle winds. Descartes' important insight was that the brain is directly involved in perception and behavior. Descartes is also important because of his reliance on subjective mental processes. He was very troubled by the fact that thinkers did not always agree. Descartes resolved to find a truth he could depend on. He identified what he believed was philosophical certainty. After much painful deliberation, Descartes concluded that he was experiencing doubt. Doubt required thinking. Thinking required a thinker. Thus, he famously concluded, "Cognito ergo sum." I think, therefore I am. To solve this problem, Descartes turned his attention to the workings of the mind. This eventually set the stage for exploring the nature of thought, the self, perception, emotion, and motivation. Finally, Descartes left the Western world with the legacy of mind-body dualism. He believed that all behavior and internal physical processes could be explained mechanically. But only humans had a mind that allowed consciousness, freedom of choice, and reason. He believed that the mind was not physical and did not operate by physical principles. The mind did not occupy space like the body does. Although not physical, the mind permeates the complete body, but exerts its influences through the pineal gland. Descartes believed that the mind can affect reflexive behaviors and emotions. Why is Descartes important to psychology? First, his mechanistic view of behavior lays the foundation for modern stimulus-response psychology. This stimulus-response mechanism became the basis for behavioral psychology. In addition, Descartes' notion of the reflex extends to animals also. This made the study of animal behavior relevant to humans and psychology. Second, for Descartes, the brain was involved in the reflex mechanism. Thus, the brain played an important role in behavior. Also, Descartes believed that the mind exerts its influence through a brain structure. These proposals lay the groundwork for the study of interaction between biological, mental, and behavioral processes. Third, Descartes' introspective approach for identifying certain knowledge follows in the introspective tradition of Plato and Augustine. This process of exploring the nature of intact mental processes is called phenomenology. 350 years later, Wilhelm Wundt uses this same method to explore the structure of the human mind. Also, phenomenological psychology has become a subfield in its own right. Finally, the dualism of body and mind has left psychology and the Western world with exciting questions to answer. Are mental operations simply physical brain processes? Or do mental functions operate independently of brain processes? What is the nature of consciousness? Can we think and feel freely? Or do brain processes put constraints on free will and emotions? These questions reflect important areas of current neuroscientific research. In the eyes of some, these questions are not yet resolved.